Action.
Okay, well, welcome everyone, and thanks so much for being here with us. We're here today on behalf of our project called Nomad Nest to introduce a new co-living opportunity in Costa Rica. Uh, it's available for the months of September and October this year, as well as the same months next year as well. You don't have to do both months. It can be 1 month or the other. And it's in Hermosa, which is next to Jaco and about 2 hours outside of San Jose. It's a really nice, quiet community with a lot of families, and you can get to the beach in like 5 minutes, but you're perched up enough on the hill that you kind of feel like you're in the jungle as well. And in these months, we've been told that a lot of animals like to visit. So the normal monkeys, like we've seen, as well as some other animals that might like be hiding away in the summer and hotter months. But we can get into that in a little bit. I want to share a little bit about us first, just to give some background. We have been perpetual travelers since before our kids were born. We met in Mexico, and then when our 3-year-old came along, we stayed put for a few months. And when she was around 3 months old is when we started traveling again. And we were visiting friends and families in different parts of the world, and having these co-living experiences together. And then we would break off and we would do a little bit of our own traveling. And what we learned from that experience is how important to us community is when you have a kid, and traveling is still important to us as well. And we weren't wanting to sacrifice community for traveling, and we weren't wanting to sacrifice traveling for community. So on a daily basis, we were talking about how we could have both. And so fast forward a few years ahead to a few months ago, and right after we arrived here in Costa Rica, I was already kind of starting to feel that itch to start making connections here, and a little bit of that isolation and loneliness was setting in. And so I went to the World Schooling group and I made a post asking if anybody else had ever thought about or was interested in the idea of co-living with other families. And it turns out that we are not the only ones. More than 400 people responded saying that they were really into the idea as well. And so over the last few months, I've been talking with a lot of these families and piecing together some things. And yeah, what has come from it is just this big learning that there's a lot of people who want both travel and community for their families. Um, and so one of the first places that we have available to have this experience is here in Costa Rica. So as I mentioned, it's in Hermosa. There are a few Hermosas in Costa Rica. This one is near Jaco. So it's about 15 minutes from Jaco, which is around 2 hours, give or take, from the capital, from San Jose. So it's very, very accessible. You have a lot of the amenities that you might need in Jaco. Hermosa being a little bit more quiet, which is really nice. There are tons of beaches close by. There's a very, very nice mix of both locals and expats. Actually, a lot of the families that you will meet here in Hermosa itself are blended families. So one parent being Tico or Tika, and the other being from somewhere else in the world. So it's not a bubble here. You have access to locals, and the locals are are really one of a kind. They're really nice, but it's a very beautiful area. I won't go through all of these, but this is just a little bit of an idea of all the activities that are nearby. Within an hour and a half, you can do just about anything you can possibly think of. We can drive a couple of hours all the way down south to where there's the really popular like Uvita area. You can do chocolate tours. You can do private like monkey seeing or other animal tours. There's Manuel Antonio, zip lining. I mean, everything you could possibly think of. There's a river down the road from this location. There's also several beaches. And yeah, one of the things that we love about it is that even if you travel like 30 minutes away, it can feel very different from here. But then you're back home relatively quickly. So there are a lot of options.
May I share something really quickly?
Yeah, please do.
Okay. Yeah, Manuel Antonio being a national park, where you can see a lot of different animals, and also a very important feature, at least for me, being a surfer, is that there's Playa Hermosa, which is renowned for its surf and especially its consistent surf. It's not super for beginners, but yeah, if you're into surf and you're uh what's it called, like medium level to expert, it's really fun, and most likely one of the places in the world where there's the most consistent swell. So happy me and happy surfers. Thank you.
Yes. And on that note, Hako Beach, correct me if I'm wrong, is more of like the beginner beach. And so a lot of surf schools go there and with kids, and it's a little bit more relaxed as well. I also, yeah, want to note on that even though there are other beaches in Costa Rica that pride themselves as being like the safest for kids, Jaco Beach is really, really kind and gentle. We have a 1-year-old and 3-year-old, so we've tried out a lot of beaches. Jaco Beaches is really nice. All of the beaches are, but another one that's nearby is called Esterios. And what's really nice about that is during low tide, there are these really amazing tide pools that are absolutely perfect for kids to explore and find crabs and shells and all different other sorts of things. And anyway, so thanks for a note on that as well. Diving into the accommodations themselves, I am going to share, try and share a brief video to show the space a little bit. You may have already seen it, but it's very quick, and then I can show you the spaces a little bit more in detail. So let's see if I can play this. Not sure. Okay, so don't need to watch it again. Let's see if I can move us on. Okay. So before we dive into the layout and the each of the living spaces, just watching the video made me remember that this is a really important piece that I want to bring up, is that when we went to visit the space, our 1-year-old, who is pretty new at walking and very exploratory at this point in time, I was really having to keep an eye on him in this space. He has gotten pretty used to pools, so it's not because of that, but because I don't know if you saw that platform. It's sort of like what they call the yoga platform, but that observatory deck, along with a couple of other spaces, is just not as secure as I would comfortably like it to be for a younger child, like a 1-year-old. With my 3-year-old, we felt fine, but it was a lot of work kind of keeping up with our 1-year-old to make sure that he was staying safe in this space. So depending on how old your kids are and sort of what phase they're at and what their personality is like, this may or may not be the right fit for you. But I think that it's really important to mention that, because if you don't pay attention to the videos, you won't know that until you arrive at the space. And I, as a mama to other parents, I really, really want to make sure that that's very known, that the space is not, it might not be compatible for that age range. That said, this is a beautiful space. So if you do think that that your kids would be compatible, we can move on. This space has been used. The space has existed for some years now. It is usually constantly booked. Each month completely filled out. So we have a really exciting opportunity to have 2 full months each year now, to have it for families. The owner, he and his partner just had a kid, so they're really keen on the idea of having this be open for families to co-live together. Normally, it's used as like a yoga retreat space or business retreats, or family gatherings. It's been used for like a senior high school trip. So it's huge. These are the room breakdowns, and then I'll go over like the common spaces as well. So when you walk in, there's 3 like jungle suites. Each room has 2 twin beds that can be pushed together to be a king bed. Each room also has its own en-suite bathroom. So as you can see, you can open up the beautiful doors to the outdoor space, or you can keep it closed, obviously, for privacy, but they're pretty spacious rooms. So there's 3 of those. And then
By
there,
the way, Lauren, really quickly, we do have some footage, some videos of all of the um interiors. So I think the videos might give a better sense of like what the space is, because honestly, on the previous pictures, you can't really tell how much space there is. But yeah, so if you're interested and things move on, then you can share more of that.
yeah, that's a great great idea. Yeah, as always, pictures never really do a place justice. Um, in our experience, you can arrive to a place and it can be nothing like you saw in the pictures, in the best sense and the worst sense. I can say that these pictures don't do it justice, in the sense that this place is way better than the photos even reveal. So I actually haven't viewed the videos myself. I forgot we had those. So maybe they portray just how amazing the space is. But yeah, we can send those along with the PDFs that you are seeing now. We're also going to send out so that you have all the information at hand as well, while trying to make your decision. So yeah, moving on, there's also two villas. So this is the first villa. Both villas have 2 floors, and there are several beds in each. So this villa has king beds that can also be split up to be twin beds as well. And then, of course, again, it has an ensuite bathroom. The space is very large. The second villa also has 2 floors, can sleep 6 people, has 2 king beds, 2 twin beds. Again, the beds can be pushed together or pulled apart. And this one has 2 bathrooms. Then there's what's called the tree house. So it's just sort of another living space that has been put on sort of stilts and has a staircase leading up to it that has a twin bed and then 2 sets of bunk beds.
You can actually see it on the bottom right picture. It's the structure that's hanging near the trees.
Yep.
But, and we foresee this being like the magic kids place, which I
Yep.
think makes a lot of sense.
Kid space, or again, the families who decide to live here can decide among themselves how they want to split up the living space. And I've already spoken with a couple of different families who, like one family, they all share a bed, so they only foresee themselves needing one space. However, when we present it in the sense that families might want 2 rooms. So that's why we say the space might be good for 3 families, each family having 2 rooms, so that they have ample space for working and sleeping and privacy. But again, depending on the families, you guys can figure it out among yourselves how you would want to split up the living space. Along with the living spaces, there are a lot of shared common spaces. So there, as you can see here, there's an outdoor gym space. There are, let's see, there is an outdoor kitchen. There is an indoor kitchen that has, so I think in total on the property, there are 3 refrigerators, 3 like massive American sized refrigerators, as well as 4 different cooking stoves. So 3 inside, 1 outside. I think, again, there are more details like written down. So you'll have all of this, but I'm just kind of briefly going over it. But it is like a professional kitchen space. So you won't be stepping on any toes, but it's also great for multiple people getting on the kitchen and cooking a meal. There's indoor eating space, outdoor eating space, a huge communal table that I think fits like 18 people if everyone is wanting to do big family style dinners together. And I mean, the kitchen is equipped with everything you can possibly think of or need, from blenders to rice cookers to everything. More of the outdoor space, there's 2 pools, one including a slide. You will see lots of animals. We saw the monkeys while we were there. The birds you see everywhere, always. And so another note I wanted to point out about the living space is that it sort of snakes around the property. So it's not all bundled up in one area. You can walk across like little secure bridges and discover other parts of the property. So you can really find your own privacy within the space without having to go into your room. And there's a lot of area to explore. There's even land, like if you walk a little bit down the hill, there's land that they hope to put bungalows on someday, but right now it's just a big patch of lush land. There's fruit trees like mangoes and star fruits. It's really a beautiful place. Just some additional info that's good to know. The owners live on the land. They have what's called like the staff rooms, the staff cottage that's set behind everything else, like right at the end of the property. They're amazing people. One is from the Dominican Republic and the other is from the US, and they just had their first baby girl who's only a couple of months old. Um, it's a very, very quiet area. It's also in a gated area as well. They do have, the quiet hours from 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. There is Wi-Fi on the property. Again, there's two full kitchens. You have an ocean view. You're also nestled like more in the jungle, so you have that feel. Two pools, an outdoor gym. There is on-site concierge and management. And then there are vehicle access, parking spaces. A note about that, you could have bikes. It is a pretty steep hill getting up to the place. So I am not sure. I'm not a professional biker. Maybe some could get up the hill. I definitely could not. So you would need a vehicle to get up and down. For sure, four-wheel drive would be needed. It's a paved road, but it's steep. So that's why we make a note that you would need a vehicle like that. For those who wouldn't want to get a vehicle, there is Uber that works here. So you could call an Uber up or a taxi up to collect you and bring you to where you need to go if you don't have a car yourself. But if you are thinking about a car, this is the type of car that you would want to get up here because it's perched up looking over Hermosa.
And and there are other options as well. We've seen people with quads and like motorbikes and stuff. But yeah, I think it's fair to say that the ramp is quite steep and quite long. So if we're coming with families, then it might just be more practical to have a four-wheel drive. What else is there, Lauren?
Yeah, so getting down to the logistics of the space. So again, we just factored in that maybe it would be three families that would be comfortable here, but depending on the families who show interest, we might be able to work it so that it's a little bit more or a little bit less, again, depending on how big the families are and what sort of space is needed. But in theory, let's just say it's three families. Divided among the three families, it would come out to 2,880 per month. What's included in that is all utilities. So there's air conditioning units in each bedroom, in each space. There is electricity, there's water, there's gas tanks for cooking gas, there's Wi-Fi, there's a maintenance worker who keeps the space clean all of the time, pool service, trash service, all of those nice things. So that's what's included in the monthly price. Because we are looking to fill up the space as quickly as possible, Timothy, the owner of Jungle Land, he has blocked out the months for us. So we would like to get people who are interested to show their interest and make their reservation quickly. There are refunds. So as you can see, this is the breakdown on what you get from your deposit. We're asking for a 20% deposit this year. And it's available again for October and September of this year and next year. So other things before I move on to what the next steps would be if you're interested. This is what would be available for additional prices if you want to add them on. I had mentioned that there's a Montessori school down the road. Our kids currently go to it. They accept kids from 1 to, I believe, 7. But I can share the name of the school if it's something that you are interested in. Um, it is affordable. It's not, for example, like US prices. And so we can share more information on that. But there are also other schools in the neighborhood too, for younger and for older kids. There's also language classes. We have access to babysitters nearby. Just throwing it out there for anyone who might be interested in like an au pair, for example, which we have done ourselves before. We could talk about that if you guys are interested in looking into that. There are also contacts for chefs and cooking classes. And then there's lots of adventures and activities and access to rentals for things. So the price before is what you get just for the living space and the utilities. And then these things can be added for additional prices. And if you're interested, just reach out to us. So why are we doing this and what does it look like just to manage expectations? So our role is to find the interested families and to find the co-living spaces. We like to consider ourselves matchmakers, if you will. So out of the families who show interest in this space, we would then get the interested families on a call and do some fun activities to figure out which families mesh well together, because it is a co-living experience. There are other models out there that just you reserve your spot and you meet the family once you arrive there. We really want to make sure that we are putting in families who are going to jive together and have a really great experience. So that's our role, to find the families, match them together, and then give them a space that would also align well with the families. Then you have, the property manager. So Timothy, in this sense, he's there on the ground to help out if any issues arise, to make sure that you guys are comfortable in the space. And there's you guys. And you guys, if you choose to live here or in any of the other spaces together, you guys, it's up to you to make the space work for you and the living experience work for you. There, are other models out there that are more turnkey. So there are community managers there to help, foster the relationships outside of the virtual calls that we would do. But we ourselves won't be there, at least for this one. So it would really be up to you guys to make the space work once you're living there. But we're doing the connecting beforehand. Again, at least for now. I mean, it's something that I think that we might explore a little bit in the future, of being more of that like community manager to make sure that things run a little bit more smoothly once you guys are living together. But for now, we're just connecting the families together and connecting you to the space.
And and on that note, may I share,
Of course.
Lauren?
Yeah.
We see co-living as a expansive experience, a growth experience. And so as any situation where that happens, of course there's conflict, and the key is how to navigate those moments. So really we welcome everyone and every family to go into these experiences with that mindset of, okay, I'm going to be spending an amount of time with other families, so I'm going to have to uh, learn how to navigate and adapt. And so, yeah, we I think in this very specific moment and slide, what we're trying to say is, we all have our own responsibilities, and in this case, we're inviting the families that want to participate in eco living to also take on that responsibility of making this the best experience for them. Thank you.
Yeah, I feel like this ties in well to a little bit of what our grander vision is. And I know I mentioned it at the beginning, but um, we we want to be able to provide this service for families who want to travel and still have that community, and outside of that just have the support, bringing it to that quote that circulates a lot of, it takes a village. And so being able to do that with other child companions around, and just that family support. And again, I think uh, there are families that are looking for a range of experiences, and yeah. So anyway, I don't want to be too redundant, but I think as you are listening to this, try to imagine yourself in the space, and I'm sure that there will be lots of questions. If you have questions, please ask us. We're happy to answer anything. But I think the real juicy part happens in those virtual calls with other families, when you try to figure out if you mesh and align with others and can see yourself living in a space with them. And it really is fun and exciting, and um, it brings a great experience to traveling. Um, so that brings me to, what are the next steps and how does this work? Um, so we, outside of this, the next steps would be to fill out the matchmaking form. Um, this is where you answer a lot of pretty in-depth questions about you, your family, what you're looking for in other families in a living space, and then more of the logistical pieces like places and dates. Um, we are asking that if you're interested in this space, that you fill it out by the end of the weekend. So I think that would be by the end of Sunday, June 2nd. We take the interested families who have filled out the form, and then we host some virtual calls that we host ourselves with the families. We'll do that by the end of next week, so that by the end of the week of June 3rd. And then for those who, are a heck yes, from there, you make your 20% deposit. And we help figure out the logistical pieces, like on the virtual calls and in between. So you're not just kind of being tossed in and trying to figure out how this all works. We'll hold your hand along this journey. Um, yeah. Do you have anything to add, Tiago? Anything I may have left out?
No, I think that's pretty much it. We do have to put this time frame because Timothy, the owner, is blocking out those dates. Of course, if he doesn't get any interest from our group, our community, then he'll unlock those, and so hence why we're putting like these dates. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's not extend this eternally. If there's anything else, let's do it. And otherwise, we're mentioning that we'll be hosting next week additional meetups, specifically to present not one co-living space but multiple co-living spaces, and in different countries. The families have shown interest, especially in Costa Rica. Hence why we had this opportunity with our neighbor, um, and why we're putting it out there as like a very specific one, tangible, that we can do. Otherwise, there are other co-living spaces that we already have in the mix for families. We have also in Portugal, we have also in Thailand, which are all of these are pretty popular spots that the families have shared. So we do have multiple places in those destinations, and we also have a bunch more. I think as of now, we might have like 20 different um, living spaces around the world. So we're super eager to share them with you guys. That said, the starting point of a family with us, the journey of a Nest family within our community would be filling out the form so that we're able to know you, so that we're able to know what are the destinations that you're most interested in, and then we're able to reach out to you and be like, hey, there's these other families that we think you might jive with. And on the call, with all these jived families, we're able to present some specific spaces that hopefully match with the group.
Yeah, can I add something as well just before we hop off? Tiago mentioned that there are several other living spaces that we are about to present as well, beginning next week. With that, there's not just diversity in location, but we are trying hard to have diversity in budgets as well. So not everything is going to be 3,000 plus. There will be some, because some of these places, yeah, are close to the beach, which a lot of people have requested, and in Costa Rica, which isn't the cheapest place in the world. But our vision is that we are going to have diverse places that are different types of living spaces, not just like this one, that will be in diverse locations and at diverse price points. So yeah, just keep that in mind, especially when filling out the form. Really get down to the gritty details and what it is that your family is hoping for, and you can edit that at any time as well, mind you. So I would say that would be the first step, is just fill out that form, whether you're interested in this Costa Rica experience or not, so that we have it and we can continue to share spaces and families that match with the profile that you have filled out. Another note: none of that costs any money. So you filling out the form doesn't cost you anything at all. If you decide to book your spot in one of these co-living spaces, of course, there's the cost of rent. But yeah, joining our community, our growing community of co-living families, just costs your time to fill out that form. So do it when you can, and hopefully we will see you either here or on another call.
Much love. Ciao, ciao.
Bye-bye.